Hello. I'm going to use this video, this opportunity to do a kind of a review of the Fallout TV show that's been put on. It's on Prime now, but it was Amazon who put it together, who made it. I do political stuff. I don't do and geopolitical stuff. I don't do film reviews or TV show reviews or even theater reviews, even though my background when I went to college eons ago, a lifetime ago, was for theater. I studied theater and directing and acting a long time ago. And I actually worked on a few films afterwards, but that was, again, a long, long time ago. Again, I don't do reviews, and and this is going to be a completely spoiler-free review of the Fallout TV series. I binge watched them yesterday. I started Saturday, and then I watched the rest of them, watched the first episode Saturday and the rest of them Sunday. And so I thought I would do a quick review of this because it kind of falls in line with what I do. Let's just start off right off the bat. Do I recommend this show? Absolutely yes. And I know that's kind of weird in this day and age, this Sweet Baby Inc. day and age that we live in, where all of these, especially male iconic characters are reduced to they put a woman in it and they make her gay, and they beat the iconic male characters to death in the first 5 minutes of new games with golf clubs. So I understand that the current climate for these things is not particularly good. However, I went into this trying to keep an open mind. Turns out I was pleasantly surprised. I really was. This is a very well-made series. This is the first season. It's 8 episodes. And I do believe there's going to be 2 more, which will culminate in 24 episodes. Why do you say that? Why do you think that I say that? Because there are 24 books in the Odyssey, in Homer's Odyssey. And I think that this production is a modern-day retelling of Homer's The Odyssey. And I think I've got good reason to support that. But just overall, this is a very, very well-made production. I mean, from the lore of Fallout to the video games, to the performances of every member of the cast, even small ancillary characters like Michael Rappaport, who, by the way, I think it's typecast in this because he turns out to be a blowhard and a bully and a coward at heart. And he dies running like a bitch, screaming, which is, of course, very Michael Rappaport. It's almost like he's in on the joke when it comes to his perception in the at least political world. And you can pull up my takes on him in the past and what he's said about what's going on in Gaza and what he said about the unvaccinated. He's a real POS in my opinion. And he is in this for a very brief time in this show. Across the board, you can tell, the Jackson versions of Lord of the Rings. Across the board, the people who were involved in this production, and I keep looking, at the image here, the people who were involved in this production, they loved what they were doing. And again, that goes from the protagonists to all the way down to anybody playing a small ancillary role in this, even, just raiders and so forth. They really did enjoy this. And, of course, obviously, because what I did when I was working on films was I wasn't, as an actor, I was carpenter. But the people who built the sets, who designed the sets and the costumes, especially the costumes, clearly they spent a lot of time watching the game and learning from the game and taking their cues from it. Outstanding representation of the game. It really is pick you up and drop you right into the world of Fallout. So without giving you any spoilers, I want to explain to you why I think that this is a modern day telling of Homer's The Odyssey. On my website, I put together a little, a kind of a go-by for me for this argument I'm going to make. At this point in time, I have looked up to see if anybody else doing reviews has made this comparison, and I haven't found any. So this is a completely unique. Now, I'm not. That's not to say that nobody else has. In fact, there was when you look up Fallout and Odyssey, there was in fact a mod that was released in May of 2023 for Fallout New Vegas called The Odyssey. And that's the only connection to The Odyssey that I have seen. Some people have said in their reviews that this is an Odyssey, but they use the word as to describe the trip, not necessarily the epic poem written by Homer, which is what I'm referencing here. So let's just start off with this. I'm going to read this, and as we go along, I'm going to stop and talk a bit about what I think is going on. This is my argument for why I believe Amazon's Fallout TV series is a modern-day retelling of Homer's The Odyssey. And these are just notes that I took for myself. The protagonist in The Odyssey is Odysseus. He's also called Ulysses, who was a king returning from war, the Trojan Wars. In Fallout, the protagonist is Lucy. Now, here's Lucy. Okay? Now, first and foremost, for tragedy, you have to have somebody from a high place, from a high standard, being forced into a transition, into an epic journey in this case, by her own or by their own quote-unquote tragic flaw. Someone in this series tells her to her face, they say, you're not really looking for your father. There's something else going on here. Something inside you. You wanted to come out here. You wanted to see what this curiosity and this drive to get away from the normalcy. Now, here's the thing. You have to in order to make this argument, you have to say that Lucy is royalty. That's key. And of course she is. She is the daughter of the overseer, which is a kind of royalty in the lore of Fallout and in these Fallout shelters, in these Vault-Tec shelters. So she is, in essence, a princess. There's another aspect to the Odyssey that correlates with this, and that is in the absence of the king, or in the absence of the overseer, which of course, if you're going to have to go watch the thing to understand why he's no longer there and why she takes off to go, supposedly to go find him. But in the absence of the king, there's this infighting that takes place in the Odyssey because there's a power vacuum. Okay, that same infighting takes place in Fallout. It takes place in Vault 33, which is where they're from. So that's another thing. It's not written in here, but that is an aspect of it, which I think lends me to believe this is a retelling of the Odyssey. There's a whole power structure going on, and who's going to become the next overseer. And but she is, in a sense, reality, because she is the daughter of the overseer, and the overseer, I'm not going to spoil it again for you, but there's even more reason you'll find later to equate her father, McLean, to royalty. But I'm not going to spoil that for you. But let's just take that as a given, that Lucy is, in fact, a princess. She is royalty. And in as much as we understand royalty in this day and age, like, let's say, Jeb Bush or George W. Bush, they were, before they were governors, before they were, one of them was president, they were still royalty, like RFK Jr., if you want to get into that, Camelot and JFK and RFK and all that. RFK Jr. would be considered modern day royalty, much like, I believe, Lucy is. Now, there's an interesting little play, and you might say I'm reaching, but I'm really not, on her name. I don't think it was chosen out of a hat. Ulysses being the other name for Odysseus. If you look at her name, Lucy, you take Ulysses, you remove the S, you end up with Ulysses. And if you take Ulysses and you rearrange it, the letters, you end up with Lucy. As opposed to Lucius, you would end up with Lucy. Pronouncing the SSE as a C, Ulysses, right? So what you end up with is Lucy. It's not a stretch. Both Odysseus, Ulysses, and Lucy are forced to travel the world, engaging in all sorts of adventures with various adversaries, each one representing a different sin or weakness. Mythical creatures like gulpers, the algui, and rabid ghouls populate the wasteland just as others did in the world of Ulysses, that Ulysses had to cross. One of the trials they face in their journey across the wasteland, again, this is not a spoiler, is they fall into a trap looking for an aid kit, and they end up in Vault 4, where they are plied with creature comforts of vault life, piles of food, and even popcorn and TV. And who runs Vault 4? That is the overseer of Vault 4. He is, in fact, a Cyclops. It is never explained. Nobody ever questions, why are you a Cyclops? There are other people. There's a doctor with a nose on his head, Dr. Nose, they call him. There's a guy with an ear on his head. There's all kinds of experimentation going on. But this guy is a Cyclops. Somebody asked, if you pull this up on YouTube, on Google, you will get a link to this first and foremost. Why is the overseer a Cyclops? And this is the answer somebody came up with. In the Amazon Fallout TV trailer, has anyone else noticed that one of the vault dwellers, who I believe is the overseer, looks like that Cyclops from Percy Jackson movies? That's the reference people are making. The Cyclops to a Percy Jackson movie. For some reason, the Cyclops does remind me of the overseer from the first game. Why? Is it an editing error? Fallout doesn't have Cyclops. That feels more like an Elder Scrolls race, but I'm really excited to watch the Fallout show. A Percy Jackson movie. Where is the Cyclops? That is the Cyclops. The Cyclops is one of the many trials and tests put before Odysseus. And what is the trial? What is the test? Afterward, Odysseus and his men landed on a plush, uninhabited island where the land of the Cyclops. The men entered the cave of Polyphemus, where they found all the cheeses and meats they desired. All the cheeses and meats. They were plied with a plethora, a literal horn of plenty of food, creature comforts. And this character, the Maximus character, is seen enjoying. He's like, well, maybe we should stick around here in Vault 4. Maybe this is comfortable for us. And he has to come to make a decision. I'm not going to tell you how that ends up, but that is extremely similar to the Cyclops story in the Odyssey. In Fallout, like in the Odyssey, regular humans have to try to survive the trials and tribulations caused by the competing gods in Olympus. In the Odyssey, it's pretty straightforward, while in Fallout, it's less. But by the end of the 8th episode, we come to understand our great corporate overlords caused the whole thing, and now their offspring, and in some cases they themselves, are still trying to rule the world with conflict, as Season 1 ends with an episode titled The Beginning of a Great War for Control of the New World. There are 24 books in the Odyssey, and I believe there will be 24 episodes of Fallout broken down into 3 seasons. Now, this is crucial. I want you to notice this. Crucial themes in the poem, the Odyssey, include the idea of nostos, or returning, wandering, xenia, which is guest friendship, learning to trust people, testing, and of course, omens. All of these things are present in Fallout. Scholars still reflect on the narrative significance of certain groups in the poem, such as women and slaves, who have a more prominent role in the epic than in many other works of ancient literature. Even more so than the Iliad. The Iliad was another epic poem written by Homer that the story leads into the Odyssey. And in that epic poem, you had elements of, it was still a tragic epic poem, but you had elements of humor, much more so present in the Iliad than in the Odyssey. But this is very important, because in the Odyssey, the role of women and slaves have a much more prominent position than in any other epic of ancient literature, including the Iliad. Now, these are the three major protagonists. You have, of course, Lucy, we've talked about her name, portrayed by Ella Purnell, which is an amazing fucking performance, and I'll talk about that next for 1 second. You have a woman. Now, before you say I'm racist, Maximus, also wonderfully portrayed by Aaron Morton, is a squire to the knight. Squire is basically a slave. Literally a slave. And he rises, I'm not going to spoil it, but he finds himself becoming a knight. Now, those are 2 more reasons why I believe that this is a modern day retelling of Odyssey. Third protagonist in this is, of course, the ghoul, or Cooper Howard, wonderfully played by Walter Goggins. Let me just give you a brief rundown of mine. Here's the thing with, Sweet Baby Inc. and this whole thing to do away with patriarchy and, being able to, have young girls sit in the theater and see themselves on the screen in powerful roles. When this is done, and people can make the argument that the protagonist in Fallout could have been male or female, it doesn't matter. Unless, of course, you take into consideration what I'm talking about. So too for Maximus' character. These are choices made, but were they made for the right reasons? I think if you look at this in terms of a modern day retelling of the Odyssey, yes, it was. I also will have to point this out. One of the biggest problems that I have with either the MCU and all of this Sweet Baby Inc. bullshit, this man-bashing, male-hating, especially white male-hating fucking shit going on, they create these characters, these strong, powerful, independent woman characters who have a flat line as an arc. They start off as being something that young girls and the artists can say, gee, I wish I was her. And then they go through the progression and it's the same fucking character at the end. There's no fucking character arc. There's no flaw. There's no weakness ever shown. She's never in a position of where she needs assistance from anybody else, except maybe another strong female, powerful female character. They're flat. Who the hell wants to go watch that? That's not a fucking. That's not a story. That's not a narrative. That's not a fucking. That's not a story. For her, it is an amazing arc that she travels from the beginning of episode 1 to the end of episode 8. In fact, they all do. I have yet to find a single character, to see a single character that's one-dimensional in this production. And I mean a single one. Not just the protagonists, not just the main characters who are listed at the beginning of the goddamn episodes. I mean any of them. They all are fully fleshed out three-dimensional characters. With their flaws, with their strengths, with their moments of weakness, they are all fully fleshed out. This is in terms of, looking at it as an actor, I don't know who the directors are. I wish I had that information for you. I should, but I don't. But take note for fellow actors in the future. Keep an eye out for these directors because they apparently are very good working with actors. Outstanding. But especially her. She does such a wonderful job with this performance. I certainly hope, and I would expect there to be nominations for Emmys and whatever else they give for the cable awards. I fully expect awards to be handed out to a lot of the individuals working on this project, but certainly her. It's an amazing performance. It's an amazing arc to see her travel through, to see her come to her start off with her highest and then a low and then up and down this whole fucking. It's a wonderful performance. I just wanted to toss that out there and make a note of that. Same goes for both of these two characters, for Walter Goggins and of course for Aaron Morton. Outstanding performances across the board. I will say this, it's not really because his story, the Ghoul's story, Cooper Howard's story. His situation. He was around 200 years. He's been around for 200 years. There are a couple other characters. I'm not going to spoil them, tell you who they are, but just keep that in mind. This is not a spoiler. There are 3 characters who were alive 200 years prior to the events of Fallout TV series. I will not spoil who they are, aside from the obvious ghoul pictured above. But they serve as what I think are modern-day representations of gods, since they are apparently immortal, with one exception at the end. And I will tease this much. One of them, I believe, represents Athena, who helps Odysseus in the Odyssey. Yes, the Odyssey is an epic tragic poem, whereas Fallout is very humorous. However, the Iliad, Homer's other epic poem, included a great deal of humor while still being classified as an epic tragic poem. These two aspects of storytelling are not necessarily mutually exclusive. And I'll give you an example. An example that somebody reminded me of, BB reminded me of, and that is, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Obviously, that's more like the Iliad, where the humor is part of the Fallout world. There's a lot of humorous things in the games. I have played Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and unfortunately Fallout 76. I love the Fallout series. I love the Fallout games. Humor is a big part of it, and so I think if "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" could still qualify as a tragedy, in the sense that it was trying to replicate one. Obviously, humor does not exclude it from that category, and BB was right about that. It was a good point by her. The stories of man's struggle against the will of the gods, the obstacles they put in the way is presented in both works. As long as one understands the modern day equivalent, as I do, and as Yuval Noah Harari, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, Elon Musk, and the rest of the World Economic Forum understand them. I tell you that So I can show you this, if I have it. Do I have it? Here. Is this the one where he talks about they are gods?
The next big projects of humankind will be to overcome old age and death, to find the keys, the secret to happiness, and to basically upgrade humans into gods. This is why the title Homo Deus, God-Man. And I don't mean it as a kind of literary metaphor. I mean it in the literal sense that for thousands of years, humans have imagined gods in a particular way. They ascribed particular abilities and qualities to gods. And we are here in a church, and the walls are full of these descriptions of what God can do. And we are now seriously in the business of acquiring these traditional divine abilities and qualities to ourselves.
They see themselves as gods. And so this is a recurring theme in Fallout. And you'll understand once you watch it. I don't want to give it away, but you'll understand once you watch it. Fallout argues that the gods decided humanity would be better off under their ultimate control, and the way to do that was one last war to literally end all wars. And then their offspring, with them and their offspring, ruling what was left and rebuilding their corporate image. Rebuilding the world in their corporate image. This is the struggle our protagonists find themselves in the middle of. One of the last lines in Season 8 has the Gould talking about finding the gods who were still, quote-unquote, pulling the strings. They then tease Season 2 with a view of Deathclaw Skull and a peek at New Vegas. I saw somebody doing a review on this. I think it was the gamer. Some gamer? It was, what's his fucking name? I forget his name. And he was talking about this, and he said he thinks they were he's heard that they made reference to New Vegas. It's obvious reference to New Vegas. Season 8's going to be in New Vegas. Which I think is, because of Deathclaws, that's when Deathclaws show up. Having watched Season 1 yesterday, I can certainly recommend it. The series was made with care and attention to detail, and performances from the cast were outstanding across the board. Even Michael Rappaport's short-lived time in the first episode was spot on. He played a bully and a coward who gets his comeuppance running away and screaming. It's typecasting. For these reasons and others, I don't have time to include here, I believe Fallout is a modern-day retelling of Homer's Odyssey. I think it's handled masterfully by the writers and directors and anyone involved, and I have yet to see any other reviewers make this connection, though I admit I haven't searched to see if they have. And again, here's a postscript. I did do some preliminary searches, and I haven't found anybody making this connection. I think it is. I think it's a modern-day retelling. Why is that important, and why am I covering it? That's the most important question. And the reason I'm covering is this. Art has a way, it should, if it's meaningful, of giving us a nice little glimpse into the world that we live in now. Life imitates art, and art imitates life, or at least it should. It shouldn't just be a representation to make young people look at that and say, I can see myself. When you start off with that, that's all you end up with. When you attempt to say something else, to make a critique of the world in which you live, and you can do so with tragedy, you can do so with comedy, you can do so with tragicomedy, you can do so with epic poems, that's what we're looking at here. And I think they handled this beautifully. Fallout has always been anti-corporatist. And a lot of the video game world has been anti-corporatist. I can probably bring up 5 right off the bat that deal with themes that are anti-corporation or anti-corporate themes or anti-corporate rule themes. Fallout is probably the most, Fallout, Borderlands, what's the one down in the in the water in the Jesus, it's anti-corporate, but it's also anti-libertarian. I forget the name of it. God, it's such a great game too. This is a powerful theme and a powerful message here, but I think it's not enough to just be anti-corporate or to make fun of corporations like Outer Worlds makes fun of corporations. What's happening here is a warning, because it gives you an insight into the masters of the universe, the ones who call the shots, the ones who have, the White House on speed dial, or Wall Street on speed dial. And they can call them up and have them come to see them, have a president come to their office whenever they need to have a little conversation. Who was it that got in trouble being seen doing her due diligence, going to the offices of BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup? These are the masters of the universe. And there's a scene in Fallout where you have one of those big boardroom scenes and discussions between the various masters of the universe. And they are quite literally, like in the case of the World Economic Forum, quite literally laying out the future of all mankind, because they're the only ones whose decisions matter. Because they have risen to so much, we've given them so much fucking power and with zero oversight. They make a point in this Fallout TV series to talk about the fact that one of these corporations has risen to the point where they literally owned the U.S. government back in the year 2077 when the nukes were launched. Again, I'm not going to spoil this for you, but I will tell you that this TV show deals with themes and situations that I believe are being discussed today in places like the World Economic Forum, in places like with people like the Bilderbergers. They are deciding maybe the problem with humanity is that there's always, it leads to chaos. When all these different countries are run by different people who were elected by these democracies, this always leads to chaos. So what should happen is they should all be run by these people in these boardrooms, unelected, unaffected by the moods of the fucking populace, by democracy. And so in order to get to that point, they have to end all these little skirmishes. They had the war to end all wars, World War II. How did that work out? Is one of the lines in Fallout. You have, right now, what's going on now? You have Israel versus Iran. You have Israel versus fucking Palestine and Gaza. You have Ukraine versus Russia. You have the United States versus the Houthis in Yemen. There's all these little conflicts taking place. You have all these little conflicts taking place. They theorize, or at least they put in the show, that the people at the heads of these tables have decided, you know what, fuck all this. We're going to fucking wipe most of the population out. And when we do, we're going to rebuild with our people, with people who think the way we think, people who are conditioned to think the way we think, to rebuild it all in their fucking image. That's the message of the Fallout TV series. And of course, you have human beings, small people, engaged in this epic battle, really between the gods. And they are putting in their way, they are putting these obstacles in their way, like gulpers, for instance. They are putting these obstacles in their way as this journey continues for ultimate control. That's why I'm covering this, because again, it's a message, and it's a current message, and it's one that I don't think nearly enough is talked about nearly enough. I can't. I hope I didn't give any spoilers away. I keep talking about spoilers, but people get mad at me when I spoil things. They're like, "God damn it, you ruined the whole thing." I can't recommend enough getting yourself a. I can't recommend enough watching this series. A, because it's just beautifully done. B, because it is a fun kind of a romp through the fucking wasteland. It's handled meticulously well across the board, from cinematography to acting to the extras to the whole fucking thing, and certainly the writing. And lastly, because of the message it has to send. This is why when I was younger, I wanted to do theater, because there are so many because it provides you, it's a wonderful art form, and if handled well and not just crapped out like a lot of art is these days, but if handled well, it's a powerful message. It's a powerful instructor. It can make you laugh and think at the same time. That's why I liked it and I enjoyed it. Again, I don't do reviews. I'm not a theater reviewer. I'm not a film reviewer. I have played all the Fallout games with the exception of the first two, because I'm not a top-down kind of guy. I've got 1,000+ hours playing these games, which I think is only exceeded. I've only played. I think Borderlands I've played more than because Borderlands is very similar. Again, it's anti-corporate, but it's also very, very similar in terms of play style, in terms of humor, in terms of adventure, in terms of being a wide open fucking space. You don't have as much humor in the Stalker series, but it's again very similar in terms of how it plays. I definitely give it a big thumbs up. I don't do ratings like 5-star ratings, but I can strongly recommend you go and watch it. You will enjoy it, and I will stick by my assertion that this is definitely a modern day retelling of Homer's The Odyssey. And I really do. I thank you for your time.